What's up, DanceFam? Welcome back to another episode of The Session. I'm your host, Russ Santos, aka Lock and Robin, as always. Today we have a very special guest with us, but we're going to be talking about World of Dance Season 4, Episode 3 of the Qualifiers. So round 3 of the Qualifiers, third episode of the season. Before I say even any more, I want to bring in all my guests here. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. Ooh, there we go. So, as you guys can probably tell, we have an extra guest with us. It's Malcolm Richardson. How you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good, just sticking at the world of dance right now, reacting to all the episodes, all the dances on my YouTube right now. Hopefully NBC doesn't take any of them down like they did last season. So we're doing pretty good. So I'm doing good.
That's good. And what's your site? What's your YouTube channel?
My YouTube channel is It's Malcolm. So that way when I introduce myself, it's like it is Malcolm. So I'm introducing myself to the world. My URL is youtube.com/StackerBoyXD, which is my old YouTube name, but I since changed it. So
nice, awesome. Well, glad to have you on. I'm glad you came on. So thanks for being here and being with us to talk about World of Dance. We seem to be talking about it equally as much nowadays. So figured let's hash it out together and see what we can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, we have our two consistent guests and hosts. Justin Cortez, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing
what's
good.
changed? What's changed since last week for you?
My shirt mostly, and that's pretty much it.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad you changed. Have you showered? I guess that's a more important question.
Of course.
Okay, fantastic. And last but certainly not least, Eser Valencia, what's up?
How's it going, everybody? Good to be back for another week.
And what's new with you since last week?
I've done my laundry.
That's good, man.
Ooh,
we're adulting over here. Come on. We're adulting. Jeez. What simple lives we live. Today I changed my shirt.
What else can we do right now?
I did laundry. But again, we are going to be talking about World of Dance Season 4, Episode 3, Round 3 of the Qualifiers. Let's just jump right into it. So right off the bat, let's talk in generalities. Is that a word? General specifics. That's ironic. But anyway, just general things about this episode that you guys thought. Right off the bat, I just want to say montages are back this season. Don't like it. I mean, I never did, and that's about it for me. I'm not going to speak more because I feel like it's just a broken record playing. Anything for you guys, Justin? Anything you got for this episode in general that you liked or disliked?
Well, it's just interesting when I look at it next to last week's episode. It's just like it was kind of a tough crowd, to be honest. Like with the judges. I was like, man, they're coming today. Like it definitely is a complete attitude shift from last week's episode. That's pretty much my only general thought about it.
Nice. Eser, anything?
I felt like that they were really coming for the youth this week because that's what majority of these teams were.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
I'll leave it at that.
And before we dig into it for each individual.
Yeah, before we really dig into it.
Malcolm, how about you, buddy?
For me, I've been waiting for one act to really show themselves to be the front runner, and I haven't seen that yet, in my opinion.
Ooh.
But there was one act this show that really stood out to me. They could really go the distance. So I'm gonna save it for when we bring that up.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, nice.
It's funny because I don't know if you watched this last week, but we had 3 favorites out of that whole episode that we think could actually potentially go
so good,
pretty far. But anyway, let's just jump right into each individual act. So the first up was Keagan Capps, a 13-year-old contemporary dancer from Moore, Oklahoma. Whoa.
They did that on the show too.
I know, dude. And once when she said Oklahoma, I started to sing it, and then I heard it also playing in the background. I was like, man, I should just be the editor on the show. That's all it is. Anyway, let's start with you, Malcolm. What do you think about her?
It's funny that you started off with her because this is actually my pick from this episode that really, really stood out to me. And one of my biggest notes was she used her biggest weapon, which is her flexibility, as like her asset. Something that really helps groups and acts go the distance in competitions is what can you do that you can do better than anybody else? And then can you do that and like really outdo it to like show everybody out? So there was this one move where she stuck like her head underneath her leg, and then she then lifted up her leg, and then it was like such a beautiful picture. I was so dumbfounded, and like her moves were so amazing. Her core is so tight. She's very strong. The fluidity in movements. She used the stage very, very well. I was so entertained throughout. I didn't want her to stop, but then when she did, I was just so disappointed.
Oh man, right off the bat for you.
Oh boy.
So I don't know if you watched the whole episode as a whole, but the reason why I went with her first is because she was the first one in the episode to perform. So like this, in your case, they started out with the strongest dancer, or the strongest act at that point. But anyway, that's awesome. You have a lot of good points. I think a lot of the points that I hit actually. But anyway, Justin, what'd you think?
Same thing. She had a great showing of lines and flexibility. Flexibility being her strongest point, like Malcolm said. Her body control, her strength, they're all turned up to 100. And I like the choices that she made with the music. And honestly, I think that she had probably one of the best showings of musicality in this episode. She was able to use her strength and use her flexibility together rather than just showing how flexible she is, then how strong she is. You could see that all kind of happening in tandem, which I think is what makes her such a standout for this episode and in this competition. So,
sure. Eser, what'd you think?
For sure, agreed with Malcolm and Justin about their points, but also my thing was a positive note that she wasn't overkilling it with her contortioning, and also and just incorporated such a good balance with her dancing. So the mesh there was very complimentary, and it was just totally incredible to watch her with all that control as well, and just being able to do the things she did. Like really, for sure, like her peeking under her knee like that, the way she did, that was just like incredible.
Fair enough. I think, well, I agree with all three of you, but I think the thing that you guys haven't said that I kind of made a relation to was that for all the B-boys out there who know Lions of Zion, she reminds me of like Isaiah, B-boy Isaiah, who kind of like does his whole contortioning thing, and uses it to his advantage, and like, you know, fuses it, finds ways to be creative with that in his art, in this case, breaking. So for her to realize that she's, you know, I don't know if she's double jointed, but, you know, certainly outrageously flexible, she figured out I can use that to my advantage when it comes to contemporary. I mean, she's labeled as a contemporary dancer, and now she's like really, you know, stringing that as far along as possible and stretching it out as far along as possible with the way that she moves herself. So, you know, props to her. It's definitely not something I've seen a lot when it comes to contemporary dancers. So interested to see what else she will be bringing later in this season, because she got 3 yeses, and we'll definitely be seeing her again in the duels. That'll be an interesting duel, actually. Whoever she goes up against.
For sure.
Yeah, let's see. I think she's definitely one of my favorites this episode, but I think I have like one who ties or I like better, but we'll get down there eventually. So moving on, the next two acts were montaged. When we say montage, it means to say that they didn't get their full amount of time within the episode like they do for each act, where they like get to know the dancers, and then kind of do like a behind the or like a prep up, and they do like a whole bit with them, and then you get to see their whole performance, and then you see all the judges and what the remarks are. So like a standard act. This is the first time this season that we've seen a montage, and it happened with these two acts, Antonio and Maria and Avant Garde. So Antonio and Maria were Latin ballroom. I think they were children, right? They were kids.
Yeah, they were kids.
Yeah.
Latin ballroom kids from Naples, Italy. So Italy's showing up this season. But I didn't get to see their whole thing. We didn't get to see their whole thing during the episode. I think they put it up online later on, maybe, possibly the full, or maybe even on NBC.com or something, the full act. But if you just watched it on TV, or you caught it wherever and you just watched the episode, you didn't see their whole act. So I didn't give any critiques, just because I feel like it wouldn't have been fair to kind of judge them based on what little we saw. So in lieu of that, or in light of that, let's not say anything besides it's too bad that they couldn't make it through, because Neo and Derek gave him no's, and we don't know what JLo said.
Yeah.
Moving on to Avant Garde, I want to say they were hip hop. They didn't really say, but people just tend to be labeling them things hip hop. Amsterdam, Netherlands, they were also montage. This was the group of guys who dressed all dapper, right?
Yes.
They had a bit of locking and breaking and a bunch of tricks in there. So I kind of wanted to see what they were doing, but with what little I did see, I have no idea. Can't make a judgment.
No love for locking.
Yeah, we don't see much of that. Didn't see much of that so far, at least. Neo gave him a yes, JLo gave him a no, and Derek gave him a callback. So at least we'll be able to see them later on in a different episode. Hopefully they don't get montaged again.
I hope so.
It's never a good sign. It's never a good sign when someone's montaged.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. So I mean, so far none of the winners have been montaged, at least. So moving on to the next full act, like who got their day in the sun. My next favorite for the series, for the episode, Chibi Unity. Right off the bat, man, I like their energy. Something about them makes me want to hang out with them.
Absolutely.
So they're a fusion group from Niigata, Japan, straight from Japan. Yeah, let's get into it. Who wants to start? Actually, Eser, why don't you start this one, man? What'd you think, buddy?
Yeah, right off the bat, like when they were being introduced, I was like super hyped for them already, and I was just like, "Ooh, I'm here, all for it. I want to get to know these kids. Like, I want to see what they got." But more especially, like what really took me over, like making them one of my favorites of the night, is like their reaction to the judges. Like when they saw them, it was just like, man, these kids are super excited. Like, I'm ready. I'm super, like, I hope for the best for them. Like, I'm ready. So, like, even from the beginning, like, how they just introduced themselves on their set was just, like, that quick, like, ripple or, like, cannon of nods or, like, tilting their head up. I was just like, ooh, that sets the precedent already. So I'm just waiting to see what else comes up. Even though it's, like, a short amount of time, like, I hope, like, it was a nice package when we finally saw what things were starting to unfold in their set. Very clean and together, like, and it wasn't just like always pictures, but it was just like a nice fluid kind of like movement of and expression that's just going about them. Like, what I put my notes here for is like when I was looking at their costuming is like it was their literal interpretation. Well, not literal, interpretive. Let me start that over. It was them interpreting of like them painting on a canvas. So it kind of like looped me back in. I was like, oh, okay. So that's why they have all these little spats of paint on their costumes, their shorts and pants or whatever they had on. So it was interesting. Like it creates a great visual and also like kind of plays with your imagination of how you want to see their dance like play out on this stage. So I really like them a lot. So I'm looking forward to what else they will present in the rest I really hope they get through. Like, even though it's like just a callback, we just need something more like this. Like, it was definitely like an identity setter there. I said that. But yeah, they embodied their song of choice very well, and good enough. But I was hoping for something just a bit more as well, because like I know they had a moment there where they had like one of their dancers like climb up on one another, and it didn't quite do it enough for me. But we'll see in the future.
Right on, right on. Malcolm, what'd you think?
For me, this was like a 0 to 100 performance for me, meaning that, in my opinion, even though the head nods were cool and all, it did feel like it started a little bit slow. But once like the beat dropped, they went off, and I was just so enamored with how they were hitting their beats. They were hitting unexpected beats, like they didn't like keep the same tempo. In my opinion, like Esther said, very clean, precise movement, and they did this little move at the end, even though there was no music, where they were just like grabbing their chest and then they just like released. So, for me, being like a modern dancer, that was just like a moment for me, and I was just loving every second of it, because dancing without music, even if it's like one move, it's just so powerful.
Sure.
And I was actually shocked they got a callback. So. That's how I feel on that.
Well, we'll get there. Justin, what do you think?
Everything so far, what I agree with is that they definitely were very clean. I love their energy when they walked into the room and everything. They were definitely like the most excited. I agreed with what Derek said about the trick being somewhat lackluster, but from an artistic standpoint, not everything needs to be a moment. I don't know if that is the case here at World of Dance. You know, they're being judged at, you know, with a different rubric than what I would say. Like, I love when people can be artistic with their choices and everything. So I don't mind that trick, because it fits in the scope of what their performance is. And if you've heard that song before, that song is very uplifting. So there's that. And I do want to see what else they have in their repertoire, and I'm hoping that there is more, because they just have this this chemistry together that seems very real. And unlike some of the other, Japanese groups that we've seen on the show so far.
Cool.
Oh, and one other thing, just to talk about that last moment that Malcolm had brought up. It is so hard when there's no music happening to hit that last moment on time altogether. You know, like I've been on, like, you know, the teams that I've been on, we've tried it. It's so annoying to clean that.
No.
So I love that they ended on that. I love that they got it, which is great. And it was just a nice way to end that set. I think it was like taking a breath.
Yeah, absolutely. It was almost exactly like taking a breath. But anyway.
In fact.
Yeah, in fact, it was kind of that. But I agree with so Malcolm, actually it's good to have you on this episode, because I think you agreed with Neo, because Neo said that he didn't like how slow it kind of started, or it felt slow for him in the beginning. But for me, actually, I did like that. I like that there was a slow build-up. Like, you kind of weren't expecting, or you didn't know how to interpret what they were going to be doing next. It's like the mystery, but like still like what Eser said, with like the subtle nods, like it gives you enough to kind of like want to see what happens at that point. That's just personal for me. I did like that overall build up from slow, you know, kind of like riding a wave, and then back down again to where you can kind of breathe at the end. So that was nice. I like the way they interpret the music, and that kind of goes down to like their musicality. It's kind of different from what I think most people or most acts, especially on World of Dance, and how they might have interpreted the music in that way. And one thing I kind of saw about their style is that for me it kind of felt raw, but in the sense that it felt tribal, kind of tribal to me, like the way they were dancing all together. It felt very strong, like they were kind of, I don't know, kind of just chanting something very spiritual at that sense. It could be with the whole song that might help, but that's the way it felt. And then with that, I feel like their creativity just, I don't know, it really sparked something in me that I kind of liked about them. But yeah, so Malcolm, you said they got callbacks, so I think they got 2 yeses, didn't they?
Oh, I must be mistaken. I thought they got a callback. Maybe I need to double check that.
Yeah, I wrote down. Sorry, go ahead.
Because it was one group that showed that I wrote callback in like all exclamation question marks. It was either this group or it was another group. They were both in the junior division, so maybe I got it mixed up. So I might be mistaken on that part.
Yeah. Do you guys know? As for Justin, because I think they got yes.
I'm actually checking right now. Trying to look it up.
Yeah. Actually, no. Looking over my notes, I did write down they got a yes from Neo and a yes from Derek, but there was no response from J-Lo, so I was just trying to think back, because maybe that's what when I was talking, like that's what I thought. It's like, oh, did she say callback? I can't remember now.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So we'll see them again in the duels. So looking forward to that episode, whenever that may be. Moving on to the next act, Josh and Erica. So they're listed as urban dance from LA, and right when they said urban dance, I was like, wonder if it's like no one's said that in the world of dance yet. They got to be from they're from LA. so for those listening, urban and they don't know, urban dance is kind of like an industry term, I guess, for like they don't want to call it hip hop, and to their credit, it's not hip hop at that point. I mean, you can have that whole argument about what is actually hip hop and what is and where does it all fall under. So they kind of came up with that new term, urban dance, and it's mostly used in the LA industry. Justin, do you have anything else that I may have missed about that?
No, that's. I think Arnell was very compulsory in that term being used in lieu of hip hop. So that's really the only thing I really know about it.
Gotcha. Fair enough. So Erica was on last season with Aiden, but didn't make it past the qualifiers. So it's good to see her again, this time with her boyfriend, Josh. So this means they had to have good chemistry, and if they didn't, something could be wrong there. But if you didn't watch it, you would be surprised. Just kidding. They have great chemistry. But anyway, Justin, why don't you kick this one off?
All right. So, start off on a negative. I thought that their musical choices were very predictable. The things that were in the music that they were dancing to or dancing with, it was very like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like you can very visibly hear that. Whereas when I compare them to some of the other acts that we've seen so far, that I feel have been almost creating the music with their bodies. It's just it might just be because like there have been groups like that so far in the competition that I'm being so hard on them. They definitely do dance well together, especially compared to the very short clip they showed of Erica and Aiden from last season. I just still didn't feel like it congealed the way I wanted it to. And a lot of it had to do, and they mentioned this, it had a lot to do with Josh's energy and his hits. Like his hits are so hard that it lessened Erica's hits. It almost made it seem like she wasn't hitting hard enough. So, that's it sucks that's kind of the case, but I do think that they have much better chemistry than what I saw with her and Aiden. That's pretty much all I have for my notes.
Cool. Esther, what do you think?
Even as when couples, like, if they're intimate, like, just performing, they're just sometimes, like, I don't know, maybe this is just my personal opinion, maybe the length of time of how long they've been dancing together as well, that could cause, like, some sort of, like, miscommunication when they're trying to interpret towards the audience. So what I wrote here in my notes is that it was definitely present, their chemistry, but I'm just saying they definitely haven't found their stride yet to really, like, mesh well as they could on stage. Felt like it was still like they're still trying to find themselves when they're trying to dance with each other. Also, like, they're very good dancers, like very quality, strong as well. But there's just something a little off about it when you watch them. So I also agree at the point where Josh was kind of like overshadowing Erica in terms of like that strength, that like those hard-hitting moments when they were dancing together. So they just had to find that equal ground just to be able to meet that. And also just using their concepts of execution, musicality, and performance, at a higher level. This is not just your ordinary dance competition as well. Like, they can still find that place of being themselves, but also, like, they got to take it another step higher. And my last thing here was I just felt a little conflicted when they were utilizing their tricks in their set. Some of them did look kind of good, and some of them were just like, was it there just to take a spot in their set or not? So I felt a little conflicted, and I'm still kind of like mulling it over what I saw with them.
Gotcha. Malcolm, what'd you think?
I think this was the first one I saw when I was reacting for my channel. So it was like the introduction to week 3. One thing I will say, it felt like they were side by side a little too much. And I know they're like a duet, but it just felt like for half the routine, they would like stand next to each other and like do a sequence and then separate and then come back together in the same spot and do like another trick and then re-separate. So it felt like kind of repetitive, where they were just setting up for like the next move instead of like going with the music. So they were just kind of like, the musicality wasn't what it could have been, because if you listen to the song, you're like, oh, they're just gonna hit this, and then they do it. That's not as impactful. I know that sounds really weird. Like, like when you listen to certain songs and then you're like, you see a dance team or like a dancer in general, you're like, oh, watch them hit this beat, and then they do it. It's not as impressive as it could have been. Like, they could have hit like an offbeat or something. Maybe that would have made it a little bit different. But it just felt like a repetitive piece where they just did something together, separated, went back together, did something again, and it was like that for like the whole routine for me. So
yeah, I agree with the three of you for the most part. Well, for all the parts, I guess you could say. Esther, I agree with you when it comes to cool, and I think you touched on this too, Justin. When it comes to their chemistry, like, you can tell, like, they mean, they love each other. They're dating, right? So, like, you can tell, like, they love each other.
Yeah.
You can tell, like, they like dancing with each other. But for me, it's not. I don't think it's a problem with chemistry, and I think, Justin, you touched on this. I think it's a problem with their different styles. So, like, I'm not sure if Erica's more contemporary related or not, and who kind of dabbles in like urban dance and whatnot. Because I'm trying to remember how she danced with Aiden last season. And I want to say it was more contemporary than anything. But regardless of that fact, I think their styles are just, they need to find a way to kind of make that mesh well together. And find their thing that they do. Find out who they are. Exactly. I don't want to talk like that. But anyway, one thing, and you touched on this, Malcolm and Eser, but when it comes to their song, I just didn't like their song choice for what they for this set or for this competition, like for the qualifier. It's just a very boring song in my opinion. Like, the song is exactly what it is, and you can't really interpret it one or two ways. Like, it's kind of the same rhythms over and over again. Not a lot there to begin with. It's mostly just, what you're hearing on the surface is what you're hearing for the whole song, and that's about it. So they didn't have a lot of wiggle room for what they could do, how they could be more creative. But yeah, I think if they chose a song, they would have been, I think, a lot better in my opinion. Anyway, all right, wasn't digging the song choice. That's pretty much what it said. So Neo gave them a call back. J-Lo gave him a yes, and then it was like down to Derek. And I was thinking he was going to give him a call back, but they got a yes, like straight to the duels. I was like, I don't know, compared to like, yeah, so
right.
You guys agree?
Yeah, compared to like
they're gonna get washed
Keagan,
out.
Yeah,
J-Lo is
compared
the
to, like,
little
Keagan,
mama of World of Dance.
Oh no, this is her show though. That's the
Here we
thing.
go.
This is her show.
She was on the Super Bowl. Come on now.
Oh man.
Here we go. Here we go.
I don't think they mentioned it in this.
Yeah, you're right.
episode, though.
So far,
Yeah, not
this
this
is the
time.
first episode they didn't mention it. But they always gotta talk about her in every episode somehow. Like really, really boost her.
Mhm.
I mean, it is her show, so I don't blame her. But they could tone it down a little bit. Anyway, so they did get a yes. They're going straight to the duels. I probably would have given them a call back, just to kind of see exactly what they're bringing and figure themselves out a little bit more. But anyway, congrats to them. We'll be moving on to the next act, the Break Ninjaz. These kids were fun. I mean, they looked like they were having fun at least. So the Break Ninjaz, they are a breaking crew from Las Vegas, Nevada. Man, right from the start, J-Lo was like, I love breakdancing. I'm from the Bronx. I know what breakdancing is. I was like, it's not called breakdancing. But anyway, we talked about this. We talked about this for the past 3 seasons so far. So I don't want to what do you call it? Never mind. I just
Reopen old wounds.
I know this one.
I don't want to beat a dead horse. That's what I was going to say. Well, man. Anyway, it's called breaking or b-boying, b-girling, but breaking in general. It's not really called breakdancing. It's more of like a media term. But anyway, I guess let me kick this one off. For most breaking crews that perform on a stage, my one wish for everyone is that they would do more choreo, like breaking choreo. For some reason, they always have to think like they gotta just fill it with like power moves, sprinkle it over there, put a power move in the middle, have background dancers, and then we'll do maybe a few bits of top rock in between for transition. Like, they did a little bit of choreo for footwork when it came to like 6-step and whatnot, that I liked. It just was so short. Because like, if you can, breaking in general is hard. Like, it takes a lot of training. And then if you can really mesh with your crew or your family that well, or like well enough so that you can do choreo and look exactly the same while understanding that breaking is difficult in itself and the choreo and the moves would be difficult in itself, like, it would look fantastic, like, to see on the stage, just to see everyone doing the same difficult thing a lot, or all together in unison. It's kind of like seeing a choreo crew just hitting, beat killing for like maybe an 8 count. Like, I'd like to see like a breaker or a breaking crew just kind of like, hash out some choreo for a good amount of time so that we can understand like that they all are meshing together as a team, or as crew. But that's the one problem with most breaking crews, or breaking teams that you see on shows like this or competitions, or even just what you see on a stage. There's always the typical issue of having, a trick in the middle with the background dancers on the side that you don't know what to look at. And if you look at the background dancers, you're just like, oh, they're not really doing anything. So then you go back into the middle and kind of see the head spin, just doing the head spin. But, for these kids at their age and what they're doing, and they're really athletic, like, for what they can do now at their age. and also like this crew has a wide range of ages. So like if they're all at that same level, that's awesome. So more power to them. They're just great dancers all around. I just wish that they did a little bit more choreo. Justin, what'd you think?
I was actually pleasantly surprised. This like more so with how they began the set. You know, like kind of pressing in headstands, and that was really the only thing I really liked about their set. Aside from like Babalu was this 10-year-old power head hitting crazy head spins. Like, yeah, he's fantastic. So that's definitely like a point in their category. But I do agree with you that it's hard to be in a competition like this, and it seems like it's so much of a pattern for breaking groups to put focus on their power moves and have throwaway transitional movement kind of lining the sides. So that it's and Derek did talk about that, and it's unfortunate that it doesn't really fit in a competition like this, because I mean that's what you'll see at like a breaking competition. Like if you were to like watch old school like breaking videos from like not Red Bull, but what's that Battle of the Year? Like if you watch old Battle of the Year like footage, like that's how they would package their sets together. So point in the category for culture, but then again, it's hard in this kind of competition. So you know, like I do agree that they shouldn't move on. And it was kind of heartbreaking when they were having their post interview, and they were trying to say like, "Oh, we're not disappointed," but very clearly she was very disappointed. The girl that
Sure.
they asked,
Sure,
it's like we're not disappointed at all. No,
Oh.
she just was like really, she was just really upset about it.
Professional,
You know,
though.
so
you gotta love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eser, what'd you think?
Yeah, Justin touched base on it also, and it was just like, okay, so let's start with some of the positives. Like, I was very pleased to see, like, okay, we definitely got like hip hop here. Like, to a lot of people, they consider breaking, or it is hip hop. This is the origin of hip hop: break dancing, breaking, b-boying, b-girling. And I was irked a little with how J-Lo was just, you know, commenting about it. I'm just like, okay, stop talking. And so yeah, and then I just moved on with like noticing like how vibrant their outfits were. I'm just like, some studio like bought these for them. That was my initial thought.
Sure. And it's like,
But at the same time,
blues.
yeah, for sure. But at the same time, I was like, okay, they're like trying to embody like some sort of like 90s kind of like vibe going on here, as well as like, okay, I'm seeing Three Ninjas for some reason too, you know. For those of you who remember Three Ninjas, you know, that was also a really good 90s kind of kids movie, but not a kids movie. But at the same time, I digress. I'm digressing. But like, yes, the beginning part, I was very happy. Like, ooh, they started strong. Let's see what else they got going on. You know, things look like it was going to go well, and then it gradually did start going a bit downhill for me. Because like, okay, this is great for like, you know, like this is showing b-boying, b-girling. You know, this is what the culture is. But at the same time, like, you know, it was just a showcase to me. It didn't feel like I would have not like pushed them through. Also, like it is the challenge, you know. Like you're going on these kinds of shows too, and like finding that medium. Like you gotta implement a little bit more of togetherness on stage as well, because like, you know, not anything can be wasted with such a short amount of time too. But yeah, that was just my main things, like, about this group. Like, I tip my hat off to them because, like, they're maintaining the culture and maintaining, like, the identity and, you know, the style. You know, b-boying still got to be around. B-boying, b-girling still has to be around. But, you know, they're still young. they got a lot of work on, and I do look forward to seeing them in the future too.
Right on. Malcolm, what'd you think, buddy?
I actually made a rhyme when I watched this. I said less solo, more choreo.
Okay.
That's the motto I ran for this group. And when I think of like a breaking group, I instantly think of Super Crew. And when I do think of Super Crew, and like the essence of using choreo as like the building block for Break Ninjaz, it just seemed like the only thing I said was, besides the 6-step, everything else was like a solo or a trick. So they really didn't use their time very well. And I know they're very young, but that's not really an excuse when you also have all these world-class talents in your same division. So the discrepancy between like talent gaps really shouldn't be a thing, especially by the way you see the judges hammering the junior division this year. It just seems like the junior division is so stacked as opposed to the upper division. Maybe I'm just the only one that sees that or like has that vibe, but they're an adorable team. Like the ending was very cute. I do hope they come back next year. But yeah, pretty much for me it was just a little too many solos, a little too many like sessions for tricks. I would just rather them do a little bit more choreo. But going to that, I know breaking is like one of the hardest styles to choreograph because you really have to be in sync with so many people at once. And even with like crumping, another style, it's so hard to choreograph because people might be on a different level than you. So then you have to adjust and then you have to do all these things to like match. So I hope they do come back next year and like fine tune because I feel like they have the potential to really become something good.
Right on. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I definitely see what you're saying about having more lower or junior division acts that are kind of better than the adult division. I think we're running out of adult acts, to be honest. We're at season 4 now, and I'm not recognizing a lot of these names. So it's just like, who else is left? But it's gonna be. Is there gonna be a season 5? I wasn't expecting a season 4, just to be honest. But yeah, so they got no's. Neil gave him a no, Derek gave him a no, and then JLo was, we don't know. So, anyway. Moving on to the next act, the Young Cast. They never said what their style was. I'm assuming it's hip hop, maybe. You guys could probably tell me if I'm wrong. Or, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what their style is. Maybe it's fusion.
Yeah,
but like they're from Quebec, Canada. They've been trying. What? They've been trying since season 2, but they never made it to the main stage. So this is the first time that they've made it to even the qualifiers. So props to them for making it that far. Let's start off with Malcolm. What do you think, man?
I was actually pleasantly surprised by this team. I don't know what it is, but I think Canadian dancers and Canadian groups always get a bad rep. I don't know, people somehow think Canadian groups can't dance hard and like they can't dance well. They feel like Canadians only should stick to hockey. I don't know where people get this idea from. Like,
oh my gosh, what?
No.
I don't know why.
No.
Because the first time I was introduced to a Canadian team was in ABDC with Blueprint Crew. And ever since I've seen Blueprint, I've always seen Canadian groups to be like very precise with their choreo. And something that really like, I don't know if it was like a tick for me, but the judges were like, they need to go harder. And I really wrote that in big letters because what does go harder actually mean? Like, what kind of critique is go harder? Like, go harder doing what? Like, be a little bit more specific. That's just like giving a critique that says, give me more. Like, give me more of what? Like, you know, I thought the opening was very explosive. Like, the knee drop. This guy did a knee drop from like chest height and landed like flawlessly. I got scared. And then there was another section where they had this diagonal into like the man splits. I thought that was very, very out of nowhere, very charismatic. I thought her transitions in between the whole set was on point. And I really just love like the knee drop. Like that was the one move that I just remember and I was just going insane over. I don't know why. It was just like a thing for me.
I got you next time, Malcolm. I'll show you in person.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I can still do it. Knee pads. That's the trick. That's the trick. Is wearing knee pads all day, baby.
True.
All day.
True.
Justin, what did you think?
I'm still laughing from hockey. It's so funny. In our time on Culture Shock, we got to know, the Canadian Culture Shock teams pretty well. And I've always been impressed and loved the way that they dance together. They have such a good energy when they dance together. And I felt that with the young cast. They have fantastic energy. I love their energy. I did agree with JLo for once about the transitions into pictures and things like that. They were kind of using that a lot as a template. And they had very predictable setups for their tricks. But I did appreciate the diagonal drop splits. I did appreciate that fantastic knee drop. My knees hurt watching him do that.
Knee pads.
Because, knee yeah.
Just saying.
I was notorious for always forgetting my knee pads when we had to do knee drops. So, yeah, that's why it hurt, for my own issues. The one thing I can't let go unsaid is that really awkward wave in the center. It was just, it just didn't seem like it had a place, and it didn't seem like that was the right person to do it. I don't know if if they had picked a different person to do that move, would it have been the same? Would I still have felt like, oh yeah, no, that's still awkward? I don't know. But they picked their tallest person, and Eser, I hope that you comment on this. Being the tall one in our group as well. It just didn't seem like it was the right choice for that moment. So that's really all I have for the young cast.
Gotcha. Actually, I'll jump in here. And it's funny, like you mentioned that wave, because I feel like that's the only move Neo knows how to do. So, like, I feel like every season whenever he comments, like, he always calls out that move in particular. Or, like, that's the move he uses to demonstrate. Like, you gotta do a little tick, 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 or whatever. It's like, for me, that's just a peeve now with Neo. It's like, come on, man, you gotta learn something else. What's going on? But I feel you. I'm actually, and you bring it up with, you and Malcolm bring it up with the transitions. I was actually 50-50 with what JLo says. Like, I definitely can understand where she's coming from, where, like, it just felt like a constant transition at that point. But I also liked it because, I don't know, I felt like I was riding this ride with them. Like, I was always following, like, a constant flow between where they were going. And then that may be a bad thing in itself. But for me, I don't know. That's why I'm kind of, like, torn between the two. Of, like, whether or not I liked it or whether or not I thought it helped them or it didn't. But, that's the great thing about dance and art in general. You can have your own interpretations, and you can like different things about what you see about the same thing. But yeah, you guys nailed everything else that I had to say about them. Overall, I liked them. So, Eser, what'd you think, man? That we haven't
you guys
yet.
covered most of it. Yeah, you guys covered most of it. I was definitely feeling those knee drops. It was impressive, but at the same time, even thinking with my knee pads on, can I still do that? Or
2 knee
at
pads.
all?
Nope.
Double knee pads.
I may need double knee pads and a small trampoline, just to get back up from that, like the way they did. But that was an impressive point in their set. Also, just like giving me this like feel for a Missy video because of their song also, and like their costuming, which is like so reminiscent of seeing like old school like and recalling old school Missy Elliott videos. So I was just very pleased with that little side bit. But for the quality of their entire set, I have to agree with majority of everybody's comments here today, and just like say it was a fantastic thing to watch. Like I was enjoying myself, but at the same time, like, was it an overkill of just like them moving from one spot to the other rather than seeing a little bit more dancing? Like like I said before, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed seeing them like be who they are and just like dancing, but was it more dancing involved, or was it just more like just transitioning formations involved, because like that was just a thing that I had to like really assess as well. And then I definitely wrote down, like, because it was like such a good flow of things going on, like overall, like I don't know how I felt about that ending. Like you just had the girl in the middle and she just like smiled and had her arms crossed. I was like, is that how you want to really end it? I don't know. That's just me. But I was just like, was that the right tone you want to leave off of? Such a really hip hop kind of like set, I don't know. That was just me, but that's just how I felt when I saw it. I was just like, eh?
Nice.
But I'll leave it at that.
Gotcha. So Neil gave him a call back, JLo gave him a call back, and Jarek said yes, actually, surprisingly. Well, maybe unsurprisingly. It's like 50-50. I'm glad they at least got a call back, so we'll be able to see more of them later on. So let's move it on to the next group, MDC3. I actually like this act. They're a contemporary trio from Valencia, California, wherever that may be. Very interesting name, but I won't say any more about that. Eser, what'd you think? Let's start with you this time.
I honestly thought it was just a very unique group, because I don't recalling previous seasons or any kind of dancing show that I've watched. This is probably one of the first times I've seen just a trio, it was a contemporary trio. Like usually, when you're doing a contemporary performance, it's usually you have a soloist or you have a duet. But this is probably the first time I've seen a trio, and it was not something I expected, and it was in a good way. Right off the bat, trying to really telling their story of this love triangle going on, the entanglement, just representing that whole complication. They executed it very well, and I was just taken aback. I was like, "Ooh, what the heck just happened there?" It's just how else do you react to that? But also at the same time, you're just so impressed, and you just don't see that coming. So I enjoyed the dynamic that was happening between there. And, it just wasn't space being filled with the three of them on that dance floor. Because it could be tricky to, you have two of them interacting and then you have the third person out there as an outlier. And just okay, what do they do? You don't want to take focus away from what's happening, but also at the same time, you don't want to do nothing. But they did that. They played it off very well, just to have three of them still having still connection, even though when they weren't fully connected. If you guys get me on that, super strong dancers, and very creative with their transitions. And I love the overall piece. Such an incredible demonstration and interpretation. But yeah, so I tip my hat off to them. This three were just something to really look forward to.
Great.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Malcolm, what'd you think?
I loved this trio. I think this, like Esther said, I think this is the first trio I've seen competitively. Even in the DMV, you really don't see like trios anywhere. It's like very, very rare because it's very, very hard to like build off each other. Also, like Eser said, I love the crap out of the storyline. It was just something about the chemistry they had between each other where I think there was one sequence where it was this guy and then the girl was on the ground. Neither of them were looking at each other, but she had to stick her legs up and catch him as he was falling. So that's a blind move. If you miss that, you mess up everything else. So blind moves are so impressive to me because that just shows how much trust you have with each other. And trust is a very, very important detail that a lot of groups and dancers miss when they go on shows or like compete or do whatever. Because what are you going to do if something happens? Do you trust like everybody else to read and react the same way you do? Because if not, then how is the chemistry? Like when we don't see it, you know what I mean? I wrote very, very strong lifts. He literally had to go from one girl to another, lifting constantly. I've done lifts before. They are tiring. And by just constantly doing it, that just shows how much strength you have. And then he just hit these fouettes, and they were so beautiful. And I was just loving every second of that section. I don't know, because I've always wanted to do fouettes myself, but they are hard. And after doing all those lifts and after doing all that choreo, he still had enough energy to nail fouettes. I have to tip my cap off to him because that's amazing.
Right on, right on. Justin, you know something about fouettes.
I do, because I used to be able to do them, and now I can't. But, I don't know. I should say that I don't know if I can still do them. Maybe I'll try.
There you go.
When we get off this call
right now.
No, not at all. I'm gonna start at the fouettes because that's where Malcolm left off, and I love that I have someone here that speaks the same language that I do right now. The first thing that I looked at when he started his turn section was his feet. You know, like, is he coming off of his releve? Are his feet pointed? Are they sickled? And the worst thing you could ever do as a dancer or someone that is a contemporary dancer or does lyrical ballet, something like that, is if you sickle your feet, it is the ugliest thing ever. And exactly. So like, and then he hits his turns. I was watching his pirouettes, and he was strongly in releve the entire time. That's very difficult. This is something that I needed to remind myself, is that you cannot prejudge a person before you see them dance, because I did not expect him to be that good. And he is a fantastic dancer. And Malcolm said that, he's very, very, very strong. I wrote very great partnering. And I don't. This is the funny thing about it. From the moment that they tangled up, they got interlocked with each other, I was like, yeah, this is a love triangle thread line. And I don't know if that has anything to do with like anyone else's experiences in like love triangles and stuff, but you just you know it when you see it. And I was like enthralled by that point.
Oh boy.
I was enthralled watching it, because like, and then I was thinking, is this something that they're going to take throughout the competition? Is this something where they're going to be like, oh, you don't know if he's going to be with this one or this one in any of their performances, and he's like got a choice to make? That'll show like the real dynamic of how complicated love triangles can be. But they ended it by him making a choice, which I thought that was really cool. And
gotta have an end
they
game.
just had and they had very unique partnering. And Malcolm commented on those blind tricks, those blind like falls and things like that. It's tough. And you can tell this is the standard of what people are calling chemistry, like dance chemistry. You know, like when they
Sure.
say like, "Oh, you don't have enough chemistry. You need more chemistry." This is what you need to strive to be at. You know, that level of trust. So, I like them a lot. For me, they're tied, or maybe even my favorite of the night. And I'm excited to see what they do, you know, in the rest of this competition.
Yeah, I agree. 100% with what everyone said. I'm also glad to have Malcolm on so that he can speak more language like you just did. Especially when it comes to that, to this kind of stuff. So when it comes to trios and contemporary, like right from the start, it always intrigues me in a good way, because I feel like there are so many more possibilities that they can do that, you know, a duet or a soloist or even a group like of contemporary dancers can do. Because if, you know, some can argue, especially when on World of Dance in past seasons, that if it's a group of contemporary dancers, it's hard to focus on one thing or another because everyone's doing something at that point. So it can kind of get overwhelming a little bit. But then at the same time, and then, you know, so pare it down to just 3, you can have, it's one more than 2. So there's, you know, a whole nother set of things you can do.
Is it?
In it, 1, 2, not 4, 3. Yeah.
7.
So like, there's just so much you can do, and what I'm curious about, and what I'm hoping is not the case, is that they're not just going to keep doing like a love romance kind of thing from now on, or like I really hope that with 7 years of experience together and chemistry together, that they can come up with something, and that they have come up with something unique when it comes to like a story to tell for their next set. So, but like, I agree with you guys. I'm super excited to see them. One thing you guys didn't mention, well, actually, one thing I want to touch on that both Malcolm and Justin said when it comes to, I guess, like blind falls, and I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but there's this one part where I guess he's with one girl, but then he gets thrown across the room and lands right at the feet of the other girl, and you know, without, again, I guess being blind, obviously. But I thought that was, and I was like, man, that's ballsy. Like, if that was me or Eser, hands down, that girl would be dead. Hands down. Like, we both step large and long and far.
And just get on the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
First off, who's throwing Eser? Because I need to know that.
You're throwing us, but that's not the point. And then just a minor thing that you guys, I don't think anyone's mentioned, their transitions in general were just fantastic. Kind of seamless at that point. Like, it was just always beautiful, in my opinion. There weren't any dead spots to me, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So Derek gave him a yes. J-Lo gave him a yes. So they're moving on to duels. Neo, we don't know about. For some reason in this episode, they're really cutting people off. Yeah. Or they're just not saying anything. I don't know.
So weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. Moving on to the last group of the night, Showstopper. And man, did they live up to their name, but not in the right way.
Goodbye, everyone.
So they're a jazz funk group from Miami, and that's about it. Let's move on. Just kidding. Let's see, Justin, why don't you kick this one off?
Okay, I'm upset that you're starting with me, but I'm gonna start with a positive. I love what they stand for. I love they're all first generation women of color, and it's such a diverse group, and I feel like they have so much to offer as a group. With that said, it was clean, but it was very lackluster and very one note. And when I compare them to the group that did the Shiva Oxygen from last episode, you know, it just seemed like it just seemed like they had that moment. It was well timed, but it was such a throwaway. It's like, oh, we can do this. We're just gonna put it in there. Whereas, Oxygen really flushed it out and made it like almost like a living, breathing deity to watch. So like it I don't know if it's tough. It makes it tougher for me to judge them because I've seen someone do that same exact concept to full effect, and then to see it done as like a throwaway move, it just didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. And I do agree with the callback choice. I do think that they should be given another opportunity to show how much more they have to offer. I don't think that it had anything to do with their costuming at all. If anything, the way that the frills coming off their costume, it should have accentuated their moves more. So I guess we'll see what they have to offer, and then in the callbacks.
Yes, sir. Malcolm, what'd you think?
Okay, so when I found out they were from Miami, I instantly thought of 305 in their costume, and I was just like, oh, they're from the same area. And then I was just like, how weird would it be if they dance kind of similar but not really? For me, Justin already said it. It was like a one-tone performance, and something I really did note was I was waiting for like something to happen, but it never happened.
Right.
I really can't explain it, but it's just like a feeling. Like you were waiting for like something to get you excited, and then it didn't happen. They just kind of ended with like their hand pose, and you were just kind of like, "That's it." Like not in a bad way, but it was just kind of like I was just waiting for something more. Something else I did right was they barely changed formations. They were stuck in like this arrow type of formation for like half the set. And all they did was like change their levels or like did a pose, and that was pretty much it. So when you have two groups from the same area on the same show, I always compare, and like compared to 305, obviously I think 305 did better than this group, but that's just my opinion. To have this group go last, I mean, I know the editors of the show have to do what they have to do, but with a name like Showstopper, it was just kind of like very weird to me.
It did stop the show, that's all I'm saying. Because it was the end. That's so bad. Sorry to interrupt.
Tough call.
Eser, what'd you think?
Well, yeah, one of the first notes I had here was, and of course that caught our attention, of course, was the costuming. And I was hoping also that they would have utilized it a little bit more, because it was such a unique design. And the frills there, like, kind of tipped you off, like, oh, they're going to do something really good. Or just, and you didn't think twice, like, that they weren't going to use them enough, but it did make them stand out. At least they're memorable, like you just want to see them do more with it. So I had to agree with the comment that J-Lo made about their costuming. Like, was it hindering their actual dancing? Like, did it not accentuate enough of things that you thought that should have been shown when they were dancing? So I was on the fence about that comment, because like, does it really make a difference about like how tight or how loose your clothing is when you're dancing, But that could be neither here or there. But I just really like was grateful to see like them, because like a very super energetic and a very fun group of ladies, and they're here for it and they want it really badly too. Like they're really representing themselves and representing their like where they're coming from. Like each of them have their own like stories, as they were mentioning in the beginning before they went on to see the judges. So they got something definitely to fight for, which is always a good thing, because you never just want to go into something and not have like a why. So definitely just definitely something you want to go into whenever anybody wants to go into any like competitive like event, you just gotta have like a reason to it, other than like, oh, I gotta win, and that's it. But you know, I also agreed with Malcolm too about the waiting for something to happen in this set. So that's about it.
Yeah, I didn't have. I mean, you guys said everything that I was going to say. There wasn't a lot to this set, to be honest, in my opinion, that we could really hash out, but there just wasn't there. The only thing different is that for me is that I don't think I would give him a callback. I don't. I'd probably say no, in my opinion, just because I feel like I've gotten. I think I've seen everything that they could possibly do, or I think I've gotten whatever they could have gotten or have done in any other kind of set. That's just me. Lucky for them and good for them that they got a callback. So I just hope that they do find something new or find something unique, or improve upon what they're doing so that they can make it into the duels. But yeah, so this was the last set, and for some reason the editors chose this to end the show. I guess because of their name, in my opinion, but that's about it.
Irony.
I guess,
So that does it for this episode. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about? Was there anything that we didn't touch on when it comes to this show or this episode that you guys wanted to speak about? Malcolm, I'll go to you first. Anything?
One thing I wanted to go back to the showstoppers about was... I don't know if it was the track or maybe I just have good hearing, but it sounded like they were trying to encourage each other in their routine. Because if you listen very carefully, you could hear people yelling. Yeah. So I don't know if that was them or the track, but if it was them, that's a big plus because that means they're encouraging each other to be better. And that actually exerts a lot of energy to scream during the performance and do all that. Another thing, it was very junior heavy, this show. It kind of I don't know, how many Qualifiers episodes there are. One thing I will say, I just hope this does not drag out, for 12 weeks or 20 weeks of 20 weeks of a bunch of dancing and then a bunch of gimmicks that everybody hates. Because
that was season 2 for us.
Yeah, season 3 was it for me when they, I think after they duels, they gave them another chance and they battled against each other. It was cool, but I hope they don't do that again because that's just kind of I don't know. They already had their chance and they didn't make it, so let's not give them another chance. It just kind of diminishes the point. So
now in this season we have the callback episode, so there's going to be a whole bunch of callbacks that we got to go through again before we even get to the duels.
And then they're gonna battle.
Maybe it'll be.
Go ahead, Justin.
Oh man.
Maybe it'll be just one long montaged episode. And
oh god!
All right, they didn't make it. They didn't make it. They made it. They made it. But back to the showstoppers. I think they were definitely encouraging each other throughout their set. So yeah, good energy. So good for them. They definitely won it. Put it that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anything else, Eser?
Yes. Well, if it's something about the show or just something in general.
Anything in general.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot to mention this in the beginning before we started talking. I just wanted to take a little bit of a moment just to recognize Tyrone Proctor. He was a major pioneer in the whacking scene. Rest in power, Tyrone Proctor. So we just want to make sure we acknowledge that because he's one of the major players that really influenced whacking today. But he definitely will leave a very huge impression on this street dance community in general. So definitely pay homage to that because he was on Soul Train as well at the same time when Don Campbell and the Campbell Lockers were on there. So that's just something to recognize.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of OGs. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
We're just getting to that age.
Yes, we are.
It's too bad. But yeah, rest in peace, Tyrone Proctor. Not to leave it on a bad note, kind of like Showstopper. But let's wrap up this episode. Malcolm, man, I want to thank you for coming on and being on this show. Yeah, I don't know. Did you have fun?
To be here. Oh, I had a blasty blast, bouncing off critiques and ideas. Usually, it's just me in my bedroom by myself talking to my cell phone when I do my videos for YouTube. So it was nice to actually go in depth and talk about like how I was feeling about all these performances and like really get a different mindset, because my opinions did change on some of these performances, but like in a good way. So
cool, right on. But yeah, it was definitely great to have you on. With that being said, where can people find you? Definitely want to get people to over wherever you may be.
You can always follow me on Instagram at Malcolm Speaks. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Malcolm YT. I always post on YouTube, especially for World of Dance, which is youtube.com/StackerBoyXD. I post as soon as I can, so.
That's right on, and we'll put all this stuff in the description down below. Justin, always a pleasure having you on. As always, we'll be seeing you next week. So until then,
yes,
where can people find you?
You find me on Instagram and Twitter. My live journal, MySpace. I don't know. At Wonderfell88. Give me a follow. I love meeting new people. That's it.
Cool. Eser, you as always glad having you on. Where can people find you, brother?
Y'all can find me on Instagram as well at ValCirca. And just hit me up if you want to talk.
He's single.
I was waiting for that one.
I know I was waiting for that.
And as always, I'm your host, Russ Santos, aka Lock and Robin, and you can find me at Lock and Robin on Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, all the good stuff. YouTube, I'm kind of on there, Facebook, whatever. But really, if you want to find out more about what we're doing and whatnot, follow us at DanceFamtv on all the social media networks. So at DanceFamtv on Instagram, Twitter. You can even find us on Reddit. We'll be talking there. We post this in the World of Dance subreddit if you're following it. Hashtag The Session. If you want to see even more stuff, go to our website, dancefam.tv. Again, thank you guys for listening, whether you're on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you may listen to your podcasts, or YouTube if you're watching us and you'd like to see our faces and whatever. Definitely have a lot of avenues that you can go to kind of just listen and follow us. So definitely hit us up anywhere else. You can find us there, and we'll give you a reply back. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We will see you guys next week with World of Dance Season 4, Episode 4. Peace out, guys. Later.